What's up, everybody? Welcome in to our MLB DFS DraftKings Picks video for Monday, August 16th. I'm your host, Ben Hostler, joined by Justin Bales. Bales, I know you were out of town late last week over the weekend. How was your trip? Haven't talked to you much since then, I would say.
Fun trip. Yeah, we went to the Outer Banks. We looked at a wedding venue that we are considering, and we're only considering a few. So it was good to see that it was what we were expecting instead of just like all of a sudden like this terrible place and we had to come up with something else. Then just stayed. We rented like a beach Airbnb, like literally on the beach. So it was really fun and came as a surprise, but I actually had no Wi-Fi there. So it kind of forced me to like unplug, like I couldn't use my laptop or anything. And I mean, that's the first time that I've like fully unplugged since like 2017 or something. So it was really nice, honestly. I know we kind of talked a little bit when we were talking about like preseason and stuff, but yeah, it was a good trip where I kind of actually got completely off for a few days, so I feel like re-energized and I'm ready to get back to this kind of grind now.
Nice. I'm glad you had a good trip. Yeah, I've been preseason grind's killing me, man. So much stuff to research, man. It really is. Like, I mean, we research a ton anyways in general, but like
Hmm.
preseason football is just a different animal. There's just so much to go through, but I've been having a lot of success with that. So you guys can still pick up a package for that, $20 on the website. Still 2 weeks of preseason left. That being said, we have a 10-game baseball slate to go over, so let's jump into that. We're going to start out at pitcher. This is a pretty mediocre pitching slate, I would say, for it being a 10 gamer. I think we have some quality options up at the top and not much below that. So I'm definitely going to be sticking with my strategy of spending up for both pitching spots on DraftKings. I don't know if you disagree with me, but who are you looking at today at pitcher?
No, I completely agree. I think Garrett Cole, just because of the matchup, is the number one option. I think that's your SP1 in cash. I'm a little concerned about him because obviously he hasn't been as locked in recent games, and now he's coming back from testing positive for COVID. So you just kind of never really. It's harder to predict what's going to happen when they return from COVID like that. But I do think that Garrett Cole's the SP1. I think you can then make a choice between Kevin Gossman and Frankie Montas. I already know which one of those two you're going to be choosing. But I think pairing Cole with one of those two in cash makes a lot of sense. And then if you're looking to drop down a little bit, Tuki Toussaint's in a very good spot. I do really like the matchup. The only issue, we kind of talked about it before we got on here, is that Toussaint looks like he's going to garner quite a bit of ownership, and he's not really a pitcher that we want to play at high ownership. Wade Miley gets the all important matchup against the Cubs. So at 8,200, I don't really want to play Wade Miley, but I do think that he's a good option on the slate. And then outside of that, the only other guy that I'm really considering is dropping all the way down to 6,500 with Josh Fleming. He's been drastically better at home, gets a matchup against Baltimore, which I'm not overly scared of. And he's going to play the long reliever behind Colin McHugh, who has looked elite this season. So I do think that Fleming is going to be in a decent spot to pick up a win. And I think that he can play well, especially for only 6,500, literally whenever he's playing in Tampa Bay. But the matchup against Baltimore is at least reasonable tonight.
Yeah, you covered that pretty well. If you look at the top, there's very clear three options on the slate: Garrett Cole, Frankie Montas, and Kevin Gossman. Cole, I know he's been out for 2 weeks. So I think the concerns of him coming back from that are, that's where the concerns are. In terms of him pitching, I mean, even over the last 30 days, 39% strikeout rate. Obviously, that's not a huge sample size because he was out for 2 weeks. But really, the last couple times we saw him pitch before he went on there, the strikeouts were still there. So I'm not as worried about that, more so than him just coming back from the 2 weeks off. But I do think he's the clear top option today. And then if you look at Montes and Gossman, I mean, it's no competition in terms of the numbers over the last month. Monta's still below a 3 Sierra with 35% strikeouts. Gossman's Sierra's up over 4 with 27% strikeouts. So still decent, but if you're talking about 35% strikeout rate compared to 27, that is a decent jump. Now, Montas does have a worse matchup against the White Sox, but their projected lineup does have a 23% strikeout rate, so there's some strikeouts to be had there. He's expensive. I honestly don't think people are going to play him. I think most people are going to play Cole, and then they're going to drop down to Tukey, kind of like you said.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, it's very clear to me Montes is the second best pitcher on the slate as of right now, so I'm just going to play him personally, even at what I expect to be pretty low ownership. Toussaint is someone you and I both like. He's just not the type of person that I like to play when he's high owned, even in a good matchup against Miami. So I'm probably like I understand people are going to play him in cash because of the price tag, but I'm probably just going to avoid him there. I'm going to focus on those top 3 guys we talked about. No one else in that mid tier below I really like today. Like it's very clear I want to spend up today.
Yeah, I mean, for me too, the spend ups are just significantly better than anyone else. I mean, I do think you can use guys like Fleming or even Wade Miley just because of the matchup against Chicago. But I agree that you probably want to just try to spend up twice, assuming you have the salary. But with a game in Coors, it might not be the easiest thing, especially with the Padres being the opposite team, to get 2 high-priced pitchers tonight.
Yeah, that's why I think we'll see Toussaint and someone like Cal Quantrill garner some ownership because of that Coors Field game. Quantrill's someone you and I don't think either of us have interest in playing him. He's had really good results over the past 4 to 5 starts, but hasn't changed anything with his pitch mix. He's gotten pretty lucky with BABIP, so nothing really looks different to me there. I think he's just been getting lucky, and that's not someone I'm going to play if he's going to be owned even at a decent price tag.
Yeah, so he actually has the biggest ERA xFIP differential on the entire slate of anyone. So, I mean, he's due for quite a bit of regression. It's at 1.38. So, yeah, he's not a guy that I'm really going to be using in his next few starts, probably, to finish out the year, unless he gets like an elite matchup that I would want to attack. But I mean, if people want to play him, 100% feel free. Not our viewers. Our viewers shouldn't play him. Let other people pay the rake with that. But I do think that you could actually probably stack against him on this slate.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think we covered pitcher really well. I don't like any of the cheap guys below the mid tier either. So this is a good time to remind you guys to please like the video. We have yet to reach that 50 like mark, so that's still my goal for this week. We're going to see if we can get 50 likes on a video. It takes under a second. Just click the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel as well. Let's talk about some stacks here, and then we'll get into the positional plays. You kind of alluded to it with it being a Coors Field slate. I think that's going to dominate the ownership. The Padres, big name team. Tatis is back healthy going into Coors Field against Senzatella. I think they will be the highest owned stack. I actually think I prefer the Rockies side against Weathers. Weathers has been really bad, especially over the last 3 weeks. Over a 5 Sierra, 10% walk rate. He's been walking a lot of guys. So I actually think I prefer the Rockies to the Padres of picking one team from Coors, but those both teams are in good spots. We get the Rays against Matt Harvey, which I like. Basically the lefties, and then you can take Nelson Cruz as well. And then I really like the Cincinnati Reds as well tonight. That's probably my favorite 3 stacks. I don't know if you're on anyone different than those.
I'm actually also on Colorado over San Diego, so that feels pretty good knowing that you're there too. It's just Senzatella's not actually throwing that bad. I know the Rockies have a really bad bullpen. They've actually picked it up a little bit in recent games, but in Coors, I do expect San Diego to get to Senzatella and the bullpen. It's just that Ryan Weathers is really bad. He gives up a lot of home runs. I know San Diego's bullpen has been one of the better ones in the MLB. But if they're really scoring against Weathers, they're probably not throwing out their top arms anyway. So I do think that Colorado is probably my favorite. I have no problems whatsoever with San Diego either. Outside of that, I agree with you. I think that you can add a few more stacks. I do really like the Dodgers tonight. I think they're in a really good spot against Brault and Pittsburgh. I'll also say Houston. I think that's a really good spot against Kansas City. And then if you want to get like kind of weirder with a stack that really isn't going to garner much ownership at all because their Vegas total is just so low, you can go with someone like Cleveland just because Griffin Jax is legitimately a very bad pitcher. He gives up a ton of home runs. I actually think that he's probably the worst pitcher on this entire slate. So I do think that you can stack someone like Cleveland, even though their offense isn't overly dominant, and we do have a lot of really good offenses in really good spots. I could see Cleveland kind of continuing the success from yesterday.
Yeah, I don't mind the that call at all with Cleveland. I think that's a good lower owned one. So let's get into the positional plays here, starting off at catcher. I really like Elias Diaz if he is in the lineup for the Rockies. That's probably my top overall play. Should he get confirmed in the lineup? Outside of him, I did not mention the Giants when I was talking about my stacks, but I'm interested in like a mini stack from San Fran tonight up against Rich Hill. So I think you can look at Buster Posey at catcher, and then if you need a cheap guy, Robinson Chirinos is cheap, even though you said you like Miley a little bit. He's under 3K on DraftKings if he's in the lineup. I think on this slate where I'm going to be spending up for pitching, you can consider him.
Yeah, I have no issues with that. Diaz is also my favorite catcher. I think if you want a different spend up, Will Smith at 49 probably won't garner much ownership, but I do like him. Austin Knoll is also there, but at basically the same price. I prefer Diaz. For my punt, if I'm spending down, I do think that Chirinos is fine. It's just for 100 more, I prefer Yan Gomes. He's just been playing relatively well. He's 2,800, expected to hit fifth for Oakland. Obviously, gets the solid matchup against Dallas Keuchel. So I just prefer Yan Gomes to Chirinos, but I think that both of them are solid options for really, really cheap price tags.
Yeah, let's move on to first base. I'll let you start out here. I have my home run call. Spoiler alert is actually from first base tonight, but I'll let you go first here.
Trying to get that out early so you can get your
Yeah,
guy.
stake my claim early, baby.
Yeah, I think the obvious option, and it's not really going to be a surprise to anyone, is Connor Joe leading off 2,800. It's just a stupid price tag. He should be closer to 5. Honestly, I would say he should be in the 4s. I also think you can use CJ Cron from Colorado just because Joe is outfield eligible as well. So you can play both of them together. Outside of that, if you're spending up, my top option is probably Max Muncy. For cheaper, Eric Hosmer at 4,000. Obviously, you get the plus matchup against Senzatella in Colorado at 4K. That's just a little bit too cheap. And then if you need to drop down even farther, 2 guys, Aldames Diaz at 3,000. He's also third base eligible. And then Darren Ruff at 2,500 is just too cheap for a matchup against the lefty. And he is also outfield eligible.
Yeah, you covered that well. You stole my home run call. You mentioned him first, Darren Ruff.
I knew that was going to be your guy.
No, but the Rockies guys are my favorite plays here. I love that you can play both of them. You can play CJ Cron at first, and then you can use Joe in the outfield. I love that. I also like G-Man Choi fitting with the lefties from the Rays against Matt Harvey. I think you can use him in all formats. But yeah, Darren Ruff. Rich Hill throws just over 40% curveballs to right-handed batters. It's the second most used pitch. He's the best curveball hitter on the Giants. Over a 500 expected WOBA against the pitch with a 63% hard contact rate. So I really like Darren Ruff tonight. Love that you can use him at outfield, so you can potentially play Joe, Ruff, and CJ Cron all together because Joe and Ruff obviously both have outfield. So I like that move a lot.
Yeah, I completely agree. The price tag is just like the cherry on top too.
Yeah.
2,500 for a potential home run is so cheap.
Yeah, way too cheap. All right, second base for me. Brandon Lau's my favorite play here. I don't know if I'll be able to fit him, but it's this is the exact type of guy I like to take against Matt Harvey because he has power from the left-handed side. I know Harvey's been decent, but you can still pick on him with the power hitters. So I really like him. And then if you can't afford him, I really like Jorge Polanco. You kind of mentioned potentially using some bats against Quantrill if you're not using him. Polanco's been locked in at the plate over the last 2 weeks. 61% fly balls, 42% hard hits. I love his price tags. That's two guys I really like at this position.
Completely agree. I'll add in just Brendan Rodgers and Adam Frazier. I feel like we don't really need to say all the Colorado San Diego guys, but for anyone wondering, yes, they both make sense. If you can get up to Trey Turner, no problems whatsoever there. But the expensive guy that I kind of want to look at is Ozzy Albies. He is finally locked in after he was, struggling a little bit for a while. Oddly enough, I think he went over a month without even an attempted steal, and now he has two over his last 5 games, I believe. So I don't know if he was dealing with like some type of injury or something, but now he's leading off, stealing bases. Obviously, he has plenty of power. Gets a great matchup against Braxton Garrett. So I feel like Ozzy Albies is at the point where he's going to be the most expensive second baseman. Maybe not with Trey Turner and Mookie eligible there, but he's going to get up there to like the 55, maybe a little bit higher than that. And right now he's only at 52. So get a little bit of a discount there. The matchup's good. And I feel like he's kind of back on track where he uses his speed and power versus literally solely relying on power.
Yeah, I think that's a good call. I would also throw in Jazz Chisholm if you're not using Tukey. If you just want to, like, you're already not using someone that's probably going to be over 20% owned, at least in like single entries. So just taking a bat against him if you're not using him, I think makes sense. And if I was going to use one, it would probably be Chisholm personally.
Yeah, I agree with that.
All right, we'll move on to third base. I think Manny Machado is going to headline this position. He's going to be really high owned, especially in cash games. I have no problems with using him. I really like Eugenio Suarez at his price once again, and I would throw Rougned Odor in there. He's been hitting the ball in the air. I think over 50% fly ball rate over the last 14 days. I like using him lefty on lefty sometimes, and Suarez is someone that actually is not terrible against righties. So if you want to use him lefty on lefty, I think Odor's decent for GPPs.
Yeah, I'm cool with them. I think Machado obviously stands out. I'll add, I already talked about him, Aldames Diaz at 3K is just way too cheap for how well he's playing and being part of Houston's lineup. And then the other guy that I would add would be Austin Riley. Expected to hit fourth. He's still not overly pricey. I know he was on that just ridiculous scorcher a little bit ago, but it's not like he cooled down a ton recently. He's still hitting over 300 over his last 10. He's got power. He gets the matchup against Garrett. So at 4,500, I do think that he's a really solid option.
Yeah, Riley's absolutely on fire. Have to respect what he's been doing over the last 3 weeks. So 100%, I think you can use him as well in the slate. Shortstop, I mean, Tatis Jr. is going to be super chalk. I actually think I like Story a little bit more. I don't know if you agree with that.
I don't know
not
if
that
I
he's
would
a bad
say
play,
more.
but you're probably picking between those two for cash.
Yeah, you're picking between those two for everything.
Yeah, Tatis is gonna be the highest owned, but I think I like. It's just tough for me to ever fade Story against a lefty at home. But I mean, look, Tatis comes off the injured list, home run, double, just does everything. It's unbelievable. I think he's like minus 150, 160 to win MVP now, just after yesterday's game. Something crazy.
Dude, he's so good. I think I slightly prefer Tatis, especially in cash. I think in tournaments, 100% feel free to use Story over him. I think for me, I'm going to try to do whatever it takes to get one of those two in my lineup because I do believe they're significantly better than anyone else. But if you can't get to them, you have some other options in this game that are just going to go completely overlooked. Like Brennan Rodgers is 4,700. Jake Cronenworth is only shortstop on DraftKings. So you can't play him and Tatis together. And Cronenworth is 4,400. So I can't imagine many people end up on him. It just feels like a really good spot for him.
Yeah, I think you can add Ahmed Rosario in as well. He's shockingly been really good for the Indians this year. I don't know. He's been like maybe their best hitter outside of Jose Ramirez, which is really weird to say, but he's actually been really good. So
He's just good.
yeah, I think you can use him as well. We can finish up here at outfield. I'll let you start out here. I still want to know why Nick Castellanos is under 5K, but I don't know. Just wondering why that's a thing.
Yeah, Nick Castellanos is an easy play if you want to just plug him in. I have no problems with that. I'll save some time. Anyone starting for Colorado or San Diego, feel free to use them. I don't need to outline literally every single guy. I know that we like the lefties, which is like Austin Meadows against Matt Hardy or Matt Harvey, but I think Randy Arozarena is literally one of the best plays on the entire slate. 4,100, one of the hottest hitters in the entire MLB at the moment. It just makes sense to play him. The price tag is. Remember when Castellanos came back and he was sitting around like 4K and you knew he shouldn't be around there? That's what Arozarena is at this point. So he's one of my top options. I do also believe that there's plenty of cheap guys that you can use here, like Austin Slater is only 2,200. Miles Straw, I think, is like 26 or something. Then you have Darren Ruff, who you obviously like a lot, at 25. So a lot of different ways you can go here.
Yeah, so outside of Castellanos, I think all the Rays guys are in play, right? Like you can use a Rosarena, I think for sure, and he's kind of the guy. If you remember late last season, like he's a guy that you can ride when he's hot, when he's seeing the ball well. He really goes on tears, and then you can use Cruz and Meadows as well. So I have no problems with any of those guys. I think Jordan Alvarez is too cheap at his price on DraftKings. He can be used in all formats. And then tons of cheap guys, right? Like you mentioned, Miles Straw. We already talked about Joe and Darren Ruff. Greg Polanco is minimum 2K on DraftKings. I think you can use him. So there's plenty of value that I think will enable you to spend up at pitching today. Personally,
Yeah, I completely agree, especially with guys like Connor Joe, just so severely underpriced.
yeah. All right, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Like I said earlier, like the video. Let's see if we can get to 50 likes for today's video. Before we head out, I already gave my home run call away with it being Darren Ruff at first base, so I'm going to get Bales' home run call here.
I'm going to go with Chris Taylor.
All right, I do think the Dodgers righties are in a good spot, so I can definitely agree with that. Good luck tonight, guys, and we'll be back Tuesday with another one of these videos.